Have you ever felt stuck, constantly chasing opportunities, but never actually being fulfilled? The answer might be in shifting from a get mentality, where you're out to get stuff, to an actual give mentality, where you are there to contribute and make the situation better. Now, this could change your life. And in this episode, you'll learn why. And why giving is not just a noble deed, but actually it's quite strategic. It's long-term oriented, and it's something that is going to transform your career, your relationships, and your impact as an artist. Hello and welcome to the Artful Maestro Podcast. My name is Nenad Leonart. I am your host. I am a harpsichordist and historical organist that has studied music for roughly 10 years. Then I went out and worked on my online and social media presence. And in roughly 4 years, I've accumulated over 70,000 subscribers across all platforms. I've met many interesting people. I have talked to some of the most inspiring artists out there. I have learned from the best. And what I'm doing here with this Artful Maestro podcast and with the guests that will also be invited in the coming episodes is trying to give you a glimpse into how your life could be if you do the right things at the right time. I dream of a world where we are spreading classical music to the future generations, where everybody has found their place as an artist, where they can do their music and get their voice heard, contributing to so many other people that we are just constantly in a perpetual growth. And the next generations will also get to know classical music better, to grow up with it, and it becomes a part of their everyday life. Okay, so today's episode, we are unpacking the difference between a mindset that focuses on the getting stuff, getting an instrument, getting concerts, getting money, getting lessons. And we are going to focus instead on giving. Okay? Even in the language. Most clients, when I work with them, they are out to get stuff. They want to get more concerts. They want to get paid better. And we then kind of take it from getting to giving. So you're just giving concerts, and you are giving lessons, and you're contributing in a meaningful way. Okay, so that's where it starts, but it actually goes much, much deeper. And in this episode, we're going to look at why and how this actually completely controls your life and your relationships to everybody around you. We will explore some real-life examples. We'll look at the science of generosity, and we'll also do a few practical steps to embrace giving as a part of your life from today on. Now, before we get into it, I just want to mention one of the main sponsors of this podcast, which is the Artful Shop. In the Artful Shop, you can go and get a beautiful little gift for musicians. Usually it's kind of hard to get something for musicians for their birthday, for Christmas seasons, for whatever. But there, you actually get to have a lot of different shirts or mugs or something that is music themed and things that are quite stylish and relatable for musicians. So if you are out for getting a gift for someone you know, or maybe even you want to treat yourself to something, go and check out Artful Shop. And this is only for the podcast listeners. You won't find this anywhere else out there. If you use the code ARTFUL5, you'll get an additional 5% off on your order. Okay, so let's start by understanding the get mentality. What's the get mentality? It's basically focused on self-interest. It's a very selfish kind of thing. It is also kind of natural because we were born that way and we grow up in a getting mindset because we don't have anything else to give. It is a so-called scarcity mindset, and it's really focused on short-term rewards. Now, this is damaging on very, very many levels if we are trying to interact in the professional world. And we'll get into these a little bit more in depth, okay? So let's look at the focus on the self-interest first. We kind of all know if we don't look out for ourselves, nobody's going to look out for us, right? So who's responsible to get their own needs met? It's right. It's us. Nobody else is responsible for you because you kind of have outgrown that mindset, right? That your parents are responsible or that the school is responsible or whatever. So many people feel like, okay, being selfish, that's kind of grown up, right? Looking out for my own interests, it's what I have to do to survive in this world. Now, if you look at it closely, you'll notice that mostly this is happening to people who are damaged in some kind of way. People who maybe have had trust issues, people who maybe have had, I don't know, I just talked yesterday to a friend who told me, hey, yeah, I played this one gig with a violinist and she was supposed to give me that money, but she didn't. Like, she gave me the money from the other concerts, but for this concert, we haven't written down anything. This was just an oral agreement and I have nothing to prove. So she's just not giving me the money for the concert I played with her. And you get burned along the way. Like, there's people out there who will try to manipulate you, who will try to abuse you. But also, let's keep it real, it's not the majority of them. It's a few bad apples. And yeah, I mean, it happens. Just let it go. Move on with your life. It's going to be fine. But so often, what happens in these cases is we feel stupid. We start to feel inadequate, and we want to prevent these situations in the future. So we kind of put in mechanisms in place that are, we feel like, smart to not get into the same situation, but they are also kind of damaging because they don't allow us to really get into good situations, like the ones that are actually profiting us. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Okay, but just keep in mind that being focused on your self-interest is not necessarily a good thing if you are in the business of relationships. And with art and music in general, you are, because there's no point in playing a solo concert when nobody's there, okay? I've also talked to someone who told me about this professor who was so selfish. He actually never did anything to provide for his students. He didn't get to have like a class. He was very, very focused just on getting. And then he kind of said, okay, you know what? I'm going to play 2 solo programs, like recitals. And everybody's invited from the class. Like, I want you to come. I reserved the great hall in the university and everybody's supposed to come. And then after a couple days, I think there was an awful email where he wrote again how disappointed he was in everyone, how nobody showed up, how everybody just didn't come and maybe didn't even give an excuse. Only one person showed up. Like from the whole class, only one person showed up to listen to that professor, which I guess it must have been a really, really humiliating experience. And it's actually what shows you that no matter who you are or where you are, relationships are at the base of things. And if you're only out to get, people notice that. And they're they're not going to give it to you for free. I mean, they're not stupid. So if anybody notices, oh, this person is solely doing something out of their self-interest, why should I give something to them? What's in it for me? Right? So you get into these kind of thoughts, and then you are already done. And I've mentioned this comes actually from our early childhood, okay? Because when we were born, we kind of just need to get stuff from our parents. We need shelter, we need food, we need warmth, we need love. We need so many things. So we are constantly in a state of need. And you can call it, a state of neediness, I guess. And the actual meaning of growing up is learning to take care of one's own needs, okay? So the bigger you get, kind of the more adult you become, you want to take care of your own hunger, you want to take care of when you're tired, you want to take care of every kind of need that you have without having to rely on other people. That's where you become self-reliant, which is a great, great thing. Okay. So you want to become self-reliant, and the more self-reliant you are, the more you'll see that you don't need this kind of childish state of mind. Because usually when we see people who are selfish, we also know that that's kind of like a childlike state. And can you imagine now going and trying to negotiate like a fee for your concert, or trying to establish a contract for a concert series, or whatever you're trying to do, and you go to the table to do the negotiations, and you come up with this childlike mentality? Like, people are going to sniff that out from 2 countries away. Like, seriously. Everybody knows, okay, so this guy is just out to get stuff for him. He's not contributing. He's not doing anything for me. And they are going to be very, very focused on what they are getting out of the deal, because they don't want to get used in that kind of situation. So it's going to be very hard for you to even get the better end of the deal, if you get any deal at all. Okay, so don't go with a childlike attitude into negotiations, into partnerships, and into relationships. That's also called like the scarcity mindset. And this is something that has been ingrained kind of in our society. I've talked about this in another episode. However, the scarcity mindset, what you really want to know about it is it has this idea that the resources are limited. So there's not enough to go around for everyone. So I need to fight for my right to be. I need to fight for my right to exist. I need to fight for kind of anything. Now, if you feel like that's your internal dialogue, that you need to fight, that you need to go out there and show up and, be a soldier or a knight or just like fence yourself out of a situation, maybe you want to go ahead and work on that mindset, because it's just going to mean a lot of struggle for you. Scarcity means if I don't do this and this and this, I'm going to fail. And ultimately, I'm going to die because like your existence isn't justified. You need to fight to exist. Okay, so that's the underlying system. And whenever you stop fighting, you kind of have this fear of death. It's very primal. It's like evolutionary. Okay, it's very deep. So whenever you stop doing, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And that's the best recipe if you want to go into a burnout. So if you want to go into a burnout, do the scarcity mindset and do a lot of fighting. If not, maybe you want to check out where you feel like resources are limited and start questioning that belief, why you think that these resources are limited. Because rest assured, at least in the modern Western countries, and chances are high if you do classical music that you live in one of those, we actually have enough resources to go around. We actually have more than enough resources for everyone to live in prosperity and not to have like crazy lavish luxuries, but to actually live a very, very good life. There is enough resources, and it's actually all in the mind if you are able to go out and get these. All right. The last point I want to stress is short-term rewards. This also touches a little bit on the childish thing, but usually whenever we want something in life, this has different consequences. It has like short-term, mid-term, and long-term consequences. Okay, and I love this example with food because food is a great example that I also learned in my life how difficult it is, because as humans, we aren't built to necessarily think about long-term consequences of our actions. We kind of actively need to learn them with our reasoning, like with the rational part of our brain. Because from our wiring that we have in the evolution, we are kind of predisposed to go for the quick fix or the shiny thing, or, you know, and in terms of food, it's like the sweet, yummy kind of stuff. So we get these dopamine rushes when we get sugar, which back in the day when we were monkeys in the wild, this used to be fruit, this used to be berries, stuff that you can collect that are like really, really, really yummy. And they were also kind of healthy, right? So what happened in the last 100 years is that food industry found out, okay, people are hardwired to run at certain foods. And one of these factors is actually sugar. Some other factors are fat and salt, but like sugar is extreme. So people will love sugar. So let's put sugar into everything so they just go out and buy more. And this was actually the case. People bought more because there was sugar in it. So there was this evolutionary pull to go. And what happens actually when you eat something with sugar? Let's look at the consequences. The short-term one is, it feels really, really good. You get this rush of dopamine, you get this rush of a heightened blood sugar, you feel more energized, everything is great at the moment of eating, let's say, a cake. That's the short term. The midterm is a couple hours in, your blood sugar is going to crash. Okay? So when your blood sugar crashes, you're getting this kind of addictive-like situation in your body, because it has had something that it doesn't have anymore, and it's kind of hard for it to balance the energy levels. It's hard for your brain to concentrate, because every kind of spike or fall in the blood sugar is taken away from your ability to focus on one thing. in your brain. And so midterm, you're not going to feel as great, and you're going to get this craving to go out and get more sugar because your body's kind of missing the sugar. And what are the long-term consequences? Well, if you do that every day, chances are high that you are going to put on weight that you don't want to have. What also can happen is several different forms of illnesses. Oftentimes diabetes will come up from excessive sugar consumption. Also, life quality and the longevity of your life, it's connected to actual insulin sensitivity. So the less sugar you consume, the more sensitive your cells are to insulin, and the more longevity you have in your life. Like, life expectancy gets longer. And do you see what's the issue here? Like, our brain isn't made to think in the terms of the midterm and long term. It's actually just wired for the short-term goals. Because it will always, in a natural state, put the yumminess of the sweet above the long-term goal of having good life quality, maybe living longer, not developing illnesses. And we are not able to think that way. So whenever you're facing like a habit that you have that you maybe don't like, or something that you're doing that's, I don't know, maybe unhealthy or maybe not good, you will probably find that you have these conflicting pulls, that sometimes the short-term benefits of an action that you do is going to be good for you, and like the long-term consequences is going to be bad for you, and vice versa. You could go for, let's say, food that's not really great in the short term, like, I don't know, let's say broccoli. Not many people like to eat broccoli, especially children. It's not the nicest food out there. And short term, you'd probably always want to prefer a cake or like a nice fruit or whatever. But long term, it's one of the most nutrient dense foods out there. And if you do consume it long term, you're going to have a much better quality of life, and you're going to be much healthier and probably live longer. So you see how these conflict each other sometimes. Now that I've covered these, I'd like to go into a few examples that I also have, let's say, with clients that I work with in the coaching program. Usually when people are in the get mentality, they try to go, again, like for the short-term stuff in a selfish way, which appears to be childish, and it's kind of based in the scarcity, limited resources mindset. So when they do that, it's usually very, very gossipy stories, like, oh, this person did that, or can you imagine what happened? Usually what also happens is that people will try to push too much in any direction. Like, let's say I have a video production business. Like, on the side, I've been doing video production for many years now, and talking to a client that's a musician, I can very easily tell what kind of person they are. And there's quite a few of them that come up to me and that are very selfish, and then they get into this manipulative vibe of, oh yeah, well, I want this and this and this and this, but poor me cannot, I don't know, put up the money or pay this, or can we make it work in a way? Which is all fine. Only thing is, they're not really contributing to me, and I see that all their ideas and like techniques that they're using in the conversation with me are kind of made to get as much out of the deal as they can with giving as little as possible in return. Like, it's not even giving for them. It's like I have to cut it out, so I'll cut it out, but I don't really want to contribute anything. Okay? So that's kind of like overdoing it in this kind of way. There's also people like over networking that would go out to everybody and just like, I don't know, throw the same thing at everyone, expecting them to see the world in the same way. I don't know, for example, as an organist, when I got a new post, they put it up in the newspaper, and then I got emails from a couple people that, I don't know, once stuck out for me, like really, which was this guy who said, "Hey, man, you know, we studied together. Like I was studying flute, and I'm really hoping to play with you, for a service. I have like this repertoire, and it would be great if you would invite me." And I was like, okay, I have no idea who this person is. They apparently knew who I was, but I've never seen them. I never talked to them. They have never contributed anything to me in any way. And now they're like asking to get invited to do something without giving any like reference or not providing anything for me except for, hey, here's what I am doing. Like, can you do that for me? Which is also not very interesting for me as an organizer. Like, I'm interested in building relationships. I'm interested in growing with people. And like, as an organist, I have invited very many people to play with me during services, during concerts, and so on. And very few of them actually return the favor. Most of them just come, play, collect the money, and then go. Again, because they're in the get mindset. Most of the musicians out there are. And if you want to actually stand out, you want to go into a giving mindset. And here, just ask yourself, instead of, what can I get out of this situation? Why don't you ask, what can I give to this situation? What can I give to this situation? Now that we have talked in depth about the pitfalls of the get mentality mindsets, the next part that we'll talk about, and it's going to be in the next episode, is going to be about the benefits and insights of the giving mindsets and how it's going to benefit you and your professional life. Okay, before I thank you and say goodbye till the next episode, I just want to let you know that you can join the Artful Maestro community, which is a community of like-minded musicians who are working on themselves, who are trying to better themselves, who are working on their career, who are trying to get more concerts, who are trying to get better pay for the concerts that they're doing. And there you can go and also talk to them about exactly these questions. You can just make a post talking about when you have actually been contributing and when not, and what your lessons have been in the situations. You can also drop me a comment or an email, reach out after this video. I'm really curious to know what you took out of it, what your opinion is, and if you have something that related to you or that resonated with you. I read through every one of the messages and of the emails people send me. I'm not always able to respond right away, but it is very important for me to know what you think about it, how you feel about it, and how I can contribute to your life and your career. So, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next Artful Maestro episode, which is going to be all about that giving mindset. Take care.